In this short presentation, I will explain to you what I feel to be the greatest error made by candidates when producing LNAT essays. What do you think that might be? Perhaps you might think it's lexicogrammar. Well, not so, as most LNAT candidates are high-level writers. Many are Band 8 and above IELTS writers who display varied and precise grammatical structures. And they have a vocabulary that ranges across a number of discourses and domains of use. There are drops in register occasionally, but little that impacts on the message. Perhaps you thought it might be the organisation of the text. But cohesive qualities are usually strong and make for a unified text, as well as one that is easily understood. Perhaps you plumped for argument. Well, sure, this is an area where many need some attention, but it's not the most significant area. Now, the clue is in the directing rubric for LNAT essays, and it's basically answering the question before you, as opposed to answering an allied question that uses a different command word or focus. Let's use some examples to help us raise awareness of this important aspect of LNAT essay writing. Now, here is a well-known past LNAT essay question, and take a moment to read the form that the question is put in. Now, in reading the question, we might look at the key terms and consider what they presuppose in a reader, and from that elicit a question that needs to be answered to fulfill the task of answering all the stated parts of the question. It seems that the essay is going to be about education, and this presupposes the use of that word is apparent in the question. Of course it isn't, and we better make it clear what we feel it means. For example, is it formal or is it informal education? Now, the next term seems to be young people, but just what might that mean in the context of education that has gone before? Are we to include nursery schools in the same breath as universities? And what about the world of work? Are we going to distinguish professions from trades or part-time jobs? Okay, now we're at the heart of the question, having looked previously at the actors involved. The presupposition appears to be that education does indeed have a purpose. What might that be, and who controls that purpose? And now we are investigating the relationship between a purpose and its object. So, where have we got with all this? Well, we can either agree with a view regarding the purported purpose of education and give our reasons, or conversely disagree. But what we're not asked for is disagreement on the grounds that there are aspects of preparation that are missing in education with regards to preparation for the world of work. You can see that no presuppositions in the question asked you about whether or not education is good preparation for the world of work. The question is concerned with purposes, not effects. Consequently, an essay directed at evaluating the effectiveness of education would be missing the point of the question, simply because it may not have been its purpose in the first place. That prior stage has to be argued for, and is what the question is about. So, answering the question in terms of evaluation is rewriting the question and moving it away from a discussion of purposes and reasons to believe that towards judgments of success and criteria to judge that. This begs the question of the purpose of education and rewrites it as an investigation into whether or not education is successful in preparing young people for work or not, and why or why not. Thus, we get an appropriate reading and a misreading. Okay, let's consider some other examples. Now, how about a well-known one on the topic of abortion? Can you spot any presuppositions here that might help us avoid taking the wrong track in our answer? Well, there seems to be two parts here. One about permissible circumstances and one asking for justifications for such purported permissibility. Come what may, what is presupposed is the permissibility of specific unidentified circumstances. Some candidates answer this as if they are being asked the question, should abortion be allowed or not? However, this is contrary to the presupposition in the question, which leads us to believe that such a procedure is permissible given specific circumstances, and it's for us to identify such circumstances. So, the appropriate reading could be seen as follows, and not as previously stated. A final example might make the issue clear, but at the risk of overstatement. But such is the importance of this to good LNAT essay writing that I'm prepared to run the risk. Have a look at this question on media censorship. Can you guess what problems candidates have when reading this question? Well, this question clearly presupposed censorship. But be careful here, because you're being asked for your views on increased censorship, i.e. more heavily censored depictions. I've lost count of the number of essays I've marked from candidates who have assumed that they were either being asked whether such depictions should be censored or not at all, or whether such censorships should be heavy. Obviously, both readings miss the question's presuppositions that censorship is already assumed to be in place. And are there arguments for it to be ramped up? As such, they're creating arguments that whilst they might support their position is one on the question, but rather on a different question. Consequently, they remain silent on the issue of increased censorship. And this is a dangerous oversight, simply because of what the rubric asks the candidate for. I hope that's raised your awareness on this key aspect to help you with your responses in the future.